Travis Campbell believed that he was invincible, that COVID-19 was kind of hyped up by the media, wasn't really all that bad. Hey, I'm not going to get it, and if I do, that's okay. I'm young, I'm relatively healthy. I don't need a vaccine. I'm going to be fine. Well, unfortunately, he's not fine, and he's decided to change his tune, not only after getting COVID-19, but of course, getting disastrously ill from the virus. And look, the guy's not doing well. He's not doing well at all. And they've even talked about he and his family making funeral arrangements. Here he is talking to CNN about his experience with COVID-19.
Last night, my wife and I had to make a decision if I was going to allow them to put me on a ventilator. Worst case scenario. And I don't want to be on one, but I want to live. Read it through the night. It was a long one. Last night I come to the realization that the chances of me not being able to give my daughter away at her wedding was greater than walking out. I had to make a phone call to my 14-year-old son, and I had to tell him what I thought my dream was of giving my daughter away at the altar. And I had to ask for his permission that if I didn't come home, that he would give my daughter away on her day. I messed up big time, guys. I didn't get the vaccine. And that's okay. I made a mistake. I admit it. And I'm taking my responsibilities now. So please, for the love of God, if you really want to have a chance, don't fall numb to all the TV, Roderick, and social media. Just protect yourself.
So, for me, look, that's hard to watch. That's really difficult to watch, especially knowing what I know. And that's why it's important to show it to you all, right? Because some of you, my core audience, like you all know, you've been watching for a long time. But on the off chance that I get like somebody who's, more conservative or whatever, doesn't pay attention to cable news, whatever, or is vaccine hesitant, that's why it's important to watch these stories. Because it's absolutely heartbreaking and unnecessary. Because here we have another day, another person who was disastrously ill because they thought, well, COVID's not going to come for me. Well, the Delta variant disagrees. It's not only incredibly infectious, but if you're not vaccinated, like that man was, it's way more dangerous, it's way more deadly. Now, it's also important to note that the rhetoric and the TV that he mentioned is concentrated mainly among the right side of the political spectrum. Look, there are several, a couple places on the left that have some, look, left has had an anti-vaccine movement. I've called them out before on it. I think that's ridiculous. But a lot of this anti-vaccine rhetoric also festers on the right, and that's some of the most dangerous stuff, okay, that we have. And so, people like Charlie Kirk, for example. Now, Charlie Kirk recently had a debate with Vosh, right? And he admitted during that debate, I'm not vaccinated. I don't plan to be vaccinated. And I don't recommend that people my age, he's 27 years old, get vaccinated. Now, that's ridiculous. And then, of course, you have Candace Owens. Candace Owens made a recent tweet. She said, Lambda variant is so much easier to say than we lied that vaccines don't work. She tweeted that out earlier today. First off, the vaccine does work. Breakthrough infections have always happened in every vaccine, but they happen to be incredibly low. Well, let me give you the numbers on that. According to the CDC, breakthrough infections occur at about 0.098% of the time. Nobody ever said that if you got the vaccine that it's invincibility juice. It's not. And however, if you do get the vaccine and you end up with one of those breakthrough cases, well, guess what? That actually prevents you from getting seriously ill and ending up in the hospital, ending up on a ventilator like this gentleman did, like Mr. Campbell. Okay? So get your vaccine because you're way less likely to get seriously ill. And so that's why it's important, more important than ever, to get the vaccine in order to stop that and to stop some of the variants, the Lambda, as I said, those other variants from popping up, spreading, and evolving. Now, of course, Candace Owens doesn't believe in evolution. She doesn't understand how it works. Well, actually, no, I take that back. She does understand how it works. But she is paid to spew nonsense from very large conservative donors. But Campbell isn't the only one, of course, to fall for their bullshit. The Daily Beast reports that a GOP official from Texas, who regularly espoused anti-vax and anti-mask views online, has, unsurprisingly, died from COVID-19. That is 5 days after posting memes on Facebook questioning the wisdom of being vaccinated. This is Dickinson City Council member and State Republican Executive Committee member H. Scott Apley, 45-year-old, who died in a local hospital about 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning, according to a GoFundMe page set up to help Apley's family with expenses. And let me just note that if we had a universal healthcare system, Medicare for all, single payer, we wouldn't leave families with medical bills like that to have to do fundraisers. Just a little note there. But he was admitted to the facility in Galveston on Sunday with pneumonia-like symptoms and was hooked up to a ventilator as his condition worsened. His wife was also infected, according to his family. Apley describes himself as a staunch conservative and a devout Christian. Neither of those things should be, exclusive to being vaccinated. You can be all of those things. You could be a conservative, you can be a Christian, and you can also believe in vaccinations. You know why? Because they actually work. And there's empirical evidence to show that it works. But in May, Apley had posted an invitation for a mask burning being held at a bar in Cincinnati, commenting, "I wish I lived in the area." Wonderful. A couple of weeks earlier, he posted a news article about giveaways and incentives meant to encourage people to get vaccinated, writing, quote, "disgusting." Wonderful. Apley also railed against so-called vaccine passports, which have existed for a very, very long time. By the way, vaccine passports have existed when you wanted to travel beforehand, and also if you wanted to go to school, you had to get your vaccines and you had to prove that you had gotten vaccines, and all of that. Now, recently, he also suggested that mask mandates in Germany were akin to quote-unquote Nazism. Yeah. And when former Baltimore Health Commissioner Leanna Wen celebrated good news this spring about the Pfizer vaccine's efficacy, he seemingly outraged Apley, called her a, quote, absolute enemy of a free people. Now he's dead. Ain't no freedom there. But the trail of destruction of this rhetoric, from this rhetoric, does not end there. In Nashville, a right-wing radio host who repeatedly spread misinformation about the virus and mocked the vaccine is now hospitalized as he fights for his life. A Brooklyn woman who called COVID a fraud died after rejecting the vaccine in favor of natural supplements like zinc and vitamin D. The family of a Florida woman who refused the COVID vaccine died in June, refuses to still get the vaccine. A Florida track coach who has resisted calls by friends and colleagues to get vaccinated actually agreed to get the vaccine and got sick with COVID just a couple of days before he was actually scheduled to get the first dose. He ended up dying in the hospital after slipping into a coma, leaving behind a wife and 4 kids. And on, and on, and on, and on it goes. And it gets worse. The United States officially has passed over 614,000 deaths from COVID-19. But in reality, it's very likely that that number is much higher. Remember the conspiracy theory early on during the pandemic, when the right would claim that, they're just pumping up the death numbers. I mean, somebody gets into a car accident or whatever, and they write the cause of death is COVID-19. Well, it turns out that's actually the opposite of what happened, at least in a small county in Missouri. The Washington Post reports that this Macon County, this small county, as I said, kind of about 15,000 people. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not really going to add much, but this is indicative of a story that might be happening all over the country. Apparently, they had undercounted the number of fatalities caused by COVID after a coroner agreed to remove COVID-19 as a cause of death from some death certificates upon being asked by the families of the deceased. Now, again, this represents a very, very small amount of cases, but according to the Kansas City Star, which first broke news of the story, said the figure was about a half dozen or more. So again, when it comes to the death toll in this country, very, very small amount. In Macon, some requests came from people who wanted to avoid being reminded of how they could not see their family members before their deaths because of restrictions. He said a lot of families were upset. They didn't want COVID on the death certificates. This is the county coroner, Brian Hayes, told the Star. I don't necessarily buy that. That seems like a weird request. I don't want to be reminded what they died of COVID. Or maybe you didn't believe that it was COVID. Again, because of that conspiracy. Hayes is a Republican elected official and is also a partner at a local funeral home. Said he obliged the request to alter or omit COVID as the cause of death only when he said that there was a factual alternative that could be listed. He said, "I won't lie for them. It's got to be true, but I do what pleases the family." Now again, small town in Kansas, conservative, not so interested in putting COVID as the cause of death. Jared Hedges, a medical professional at the University of Hawaii in Manoa, wrote in an email that it was understandable for families to want to keep the cause of death private, but coroners should report both the presence of a coronavirus infection and any associated underlying disease under the cause of death. He said, as it could help persuade those with pre-existing conditions to get vaccinated. Quote, although some deaths are uniquely related to COVID, many, many more are where COVID has pushed those with pre-existing conditions into a literal death spiral. Now, if this happened in Macon, is it really a stretch that it could conceivably happen in other places? I don't know. But it certainly is possible. We could be several thousand to even hundreds of thousands off from the actual count. And that's not just me saying this. Back in May, the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington said the actual number of deaths in the United States caused by the pandemic could actually be over 900,000, higher than the roughly 580,000 deaths logged at the time. So think about that. I mean, we don't know. Again, we don't know the exact number, but it seems like it's very, very likely that it could be higher, much higher. All this is to say, it doesn't have to be this way. People don't have to continue dying as a result of COVID-19 at the numbers that they are today. This is a disease of the unvaccinated. There is only one way, one surefire way to guarantee that you and your family remain safe. And that is to, of course, go and get your vaccine. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron,
patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.